Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue our discussion on Vampire the Masquerade. We've been going over some of the dramatic systems. Now we're going into the actual drama of the system, if that's an interesting way of putting it. But what we're doing is we're looking at some of what your characters will do, some of the dice rolls you may or may not to do. But let's just dive into it rather than going on like that. Let's talk about scenes. Because I've mentioned scenes before, but scenes are going to evolve into what I'm going to be talking about in a minute. So, when you have a scene, of course, it's a moment in your story, a moment in your adventure. It's just one of many moments, and it's not going to be a static moment. It's when a lot of action, adventure, drama, a lot of things are going on within that scene that's driving your story. Now, you're not going to have always going to have scenes. Scenes are going to be excerpts of what's going on that your characters are going to be the most involved in. There are times when your characters are going to have downtime. It's what's in between scenes. It's when they're resting and recuperating, they're researching, maybe they're not doing any kind of play-by-play role-playing, that sort of thing. But you never know when things are going to change, and while they're doing something that might be downtime, all of a sudden they're in a scene. It could happen at any time that they're driven into it, depending on what their actions are and how your story would unfold. They might only think going to a store to buy something is routine, and it ends up becoming a scene because, oh, you had decided that you want something there that they can get involved in. Now, a scene is going to be a combination of turns or organized events. That's an easy way to say it. Every turn that goes by will be one actions a player will do, traditionally. And when you have action turns, it's implying that something very action-related is going on. If you're having any kind of other turns, it might just be speaking in amongst each other, that you speak back and forth. Each sort of set of dialogue might be in itself a turn. But when you dive into that action, that's when we're starting to worry about the dice rolls, and maybe we're starting to worry about combat. Now, when a character on one of their turns takes an action, they normally just get one action. There are exceptions to this. If you have celerity, you get more than one action if you're using celerity. But you can also take multiple actions if you do not have celerity. To do that, you have to split your dice pool. Okay, what am I doing when I'm splitting my dice pool? I take a look at the actions I want to do in a turn. I lay them all out. I look at the dice pools of each of these actions, and then I choose the one with the smallest dice pool and split its dice evenly rounded down in amongst the actions I want to do. So if I would get only 4 dice over here and I want to do 3 actions, I get 1 dice apiece. Might as well take the 4th action if I'm still getting only 1 die. That's the way it kind of breaks down when I want to do multiple actions. Now, when I would do multiple actions, we have to bring in talking about initiative. I'm not going to go totally into details about initiative yet, but consider that everybody acts in a sort of order on a turn. Whatever that order may be, I'll talk about in a second. But when you have multiple actions, whether it's celerity or you're breaking your dice pool, we move down through everyone, and then we move back up and move down through everyone again. And we keep repeating this until everybody runs out of actions. At any time, if you have not made an action and it gets back around to someone who, we run out of people on a set of turns that would have not acted, you lose that action. So effectively, we have everybody go, and if you haven't used your action, if you sort of waited or you readied and you haven't done anything, you lose it when we get back up to here, because we're starting with the people that have either celerity or split their dice pools. And then maybe again, you might lose your action if you don't use it there. It sort of breaks down the line that you have an option in a certain amount of time to use your action. If you don't use it, you lose it. And in a way, combat turns are broken down, that a single turn might have a lot of sets of actions if people are breaking up their dice pools a lot. But when you break up your dice pool a lot, you don't get a lot of dice. So you might just be failing a lot also with small dice pools. Now, when you're breaking into combat or any kind of thing like this when it has a scene, it's important to keep things organized and running smoothly. To do this, you're going to do things like you're going to allow people to roll whatever they want. It could be something that's difficulty 10. If they want to roll it, let them roll it. It's up to them. If they want to do something crazy, go ahead. Then you're going to have to start looking to where everyone is. That's the first major thing you're going to do on a turn, is to define where everyone is. You're going to look to every character, and you're going to tell them, you're here, This may be cover around you. These are what's around you. These sort of things. Maybe you have cover, maybe you don't. All these other details. And you're going to let everyone know the details. And then you're going to let anybody know certain things about their enemies. Granted, it might look like, oh, he's holding up a gun. It looks like he might shoot you. The guy might not shoot you. He might just be holding up a gun and hiding that he's going to throw a knife. You don't know that. But you can have people look at someone and guess what they are. And maybe not everybody sees them. Maybe another person sees the knife, and they can add an action on their turn, warn the other one that, oh, he's going to throw a secret knife or something. Things like that, that maybe that guy needs to prepare for the knife. You never know. But it's a matter of perception and understanding where everything is set up in the world at the start of a turn that people need to know in order to get an idea of what their characters should do. Then you establish initiative. I'm not going to talk about how you establish initiative yet. That's going to be next week. But let's just say you've established initiative. There is a way of rolling initiative, or you can do it a little more freeform, and you can just sort of go down the table and say like, oh, I'm just going to do this. Everybody sort of does their things as I see them in order, as it seems like is more appropriate. Or maybe everybody does everything at once. Effectively then, everybody is going to say what kind of action they want to do, starting from the lowest initiative, or whatever point you've chosen, to the highest. Traditionally, it would be the lowest initiative, the highest, would declare what kind of actions they're going to do, whether doing multiple actions or single actions, and everybody above them would be able to react accordingly. The enemies don't get to declare that the same way, so you're only sort of judging what your enemies are going to do and reacting to that accordingly as you sort of see fit. The enemies are sort of squeezed in there also. So effectively, we begin with an intention of what needs to be done in reaction to the setting, then declare what you want to do. See, it's like a two-step thing here. Technically, when I would normally roll it, I would put it all into one step of what this person is planning to do on their turn. But effectively, it is technically sort of split up between two different steps there. They ask you to go more into details the more complex the encounter is, the scene that's going on, but generally speaking, you want to give at least some kind of detail on what your character is planning on doing. Again, the more complex the scene, the more detail might be required at this portion in time. Then our dice resolves. Then you've basically chosen difficulties, what test they need to do to what they need to do, how many successes they might need. All that information, you let every person know. You basically say, you need this many successes on this type of dice roll with this kind of difficulty. And you go down the line telling everybody what they need. And they will roll those, and they will see what the results are. They will see if they are successful or they fail. They will see how everybody kind of interacts with each other, and that, we're starting at that point in time, highest initiative to lowest initiative. So we already know sort of the lowest initiative decided first what they're going to do, highest initiative decided last. But that's only because they are the fastest and everybody else is effectively, they can sort of interrupt everybody, and they get sort of their reaction to everybody that they're doing. Now, there is one important thing about this. Be graphic and descriptive about when you're doing something. If your character or your player is shooting someone, when you describe them shooting that person, just don't say, oh, you did 3 damage to them. Give some description about what happens to them, what kind of shot, where it's hitting. Add some life to it. You're not telling them that they're doing 3 damage. They might be doing 3 damage, but that's not what you're saying. You're saying you shot him in the arm. It looks like a pretty good hit. That's the kind of spirit you're going to try to encourage and place into your game to add that it's got this kind of story element and drama. So that's it for today. I went over some of the basics of what it means to be a scene, the turns it is, what you do in the course of a turn, and some basics about how many actions you get to do, and, using multiple actions. Next time, I'll talk about initiative. I'll let you know how it works, and I'll move into the physical systems that are in here. So if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It shows you support the channel, the empire, and the work I do. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.